check, good. So I'm Max Ceron, Max Ceron, CWB Association Welding Podcast. Podcast. Today we have a really cool guest, Welding Podcast.
The show is about to begin.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the CWB Association podcast. My name is Max Ceron, and as always, we have a wonderful guest with us today to talk about his journey and his life with his company. And it's a very interesting company that has done a lot of work with the CWB group and the association over the years and with schools across North America. And companies too. We have Michel Gagnon from Handlex. And Michel, how are you doing today?
We're doing pretty good. Yes, sir.
Looks like you got a bright sunny day behind you. Where are you right now?
Well, I'm in my office in Montreal, and yes, we're expecting about a week of sunshine and higher temperature.
Perfect. So, you're from your name and your location, I think people will be able to figure out that you are French. It's French speaking.
Yes, I am. My native language is French. Yep.
Good. And is Handlex headquartered in Quebec?
Yeah, in Ville Saint-Laurent on the Montreal Island. And the name of the company comes from, not from me, but from the two founders in the 50s. It was Hennessy and Lemieux. And I bought it in the beginning of 80s and changed the mission of the company from being a manufacturer representative to a manufacturer involved in mainly welding smoke extraction at the source using the gun. At the beginning, we were using the only one that was available in the market at the time was Binzel. And then we switched to another company from France that has a much better gun as far as source extraction is concerned. We've been with them for about 20 years. And lately, we put together our own gun because I knew enough from the market that the gun has to be improved. And we did that as far as capacity of smoke, efficiency of smoke extraction, and ergonomic. Those were the two complaints from previous customer. They, too heavy, too bulky, getting the gas, getting porosity, stuff like that. So we resolved those issues because now we have customers that have their weld X-ray with our technology and no issue at all. No problem.
And we're going to get to all the amazing stuff that's coming out of Canada. And it's amazing. Like, we're always trying to find these amazing Canadian stories, of technology and advancement and the passion people have for the industry. But let's go back in time. Okay. Where were you born?
I was born in Trois-Rivières. Yeah, right in between Montreal and Quebec City. That's where I was born. And then I went to high school in Trois-Rivières and university in Montreal, Polytechnic, and graduated in mechanical engineering. But in order to do that, I had some difficulty. You see, I was raised on a farm, so they had no money to send me to university. So I decided after high school to get my pilot license. And then I've been a bush pilot for 4 or 5 years to get some money and go to school. And that was my summer work in the end of the 60s, beginning of the 70s. My summer job was bush pilot.
You must have been a pretty popular guy to be a young man with a pilot's license.
That was nice to be.
Because I'm sure you got in the plane and went to some parties out in the bush.
Oh my God, so many of them. So many of them. Fishing trip and hunting trip and fun trip. All kinds of stuff.
I need more friends with pilots. So if anyone's listening, if you have your pilot's license, I'm looking for new friends.
Well, come to Montreal. We'll go for a ride.
Oh, I would love to, and I will. I will definitely come visit you soon.
Right.
It's on my list because I was just talking to Dan Tadich an hour ago, and he said, "Say hello to Michel. Tell him my best to him."
Yeah.
So he says hello.
Yeah, we've been working together for many years. And for your information, if you come to Montreal, I've got my plane right next to my house, so we can go and take a ride anytime you want.
Oh, that would be so much fun. I will take you up on that. I would love to.
All right.
So then you're flying the plane, you're making some money, you go to university, you get through university mechanical engineering. What was your first job out of university? What did you do?
Well, I've been working for a ventilation, refrigeration, air conditioning company for a year or so, but I wanted to take over a company that the owner wanted to sell, or they wanted to go out of it. And
Mhm.
finally, I found Handlex, and I've been with them since 78 or something like that. And 10 years later, in the 86 or 88, I bought it,
So
and then
you
I
just
changed the
got on at
mission.
Handlex. You got on with Handlex as an engineer in the beginning.
Yeah, always. Yeah, yeah. But the development of the vacuum system was something quite interesting. We found
Yeah.
out, being acquainted with that technology, that we could do a lot. At the beginning, we were doing welding smoke, dust extraction in pharmaceutical and food industries and so on. But nowadays, 100% of our emission is welding smoke extraction. And in time, we develop an understanding of. I'm sure you heard from people that sometimes it works okay when you do source extraction, other time it does not. And
Hmm.
nobody understood that, even myself at the beginning. But now I do know exactly what is the relationship, and it is the welding power. In other words, your voltage and amperage. The
Hmm.
higher you increase those two parameters, the convection column, the hot air coming up that contains all the smoke, the stronger it is in volume and in speed.
Hmm.
So with your extraction system, whatever it is, a nozzle with a magnet, or a hood from an arm, or the nozzle from a smoke extraction gun, if you're not compatible, in other words, if you're not sucking air fast enough, it's just going to go by. And there's since that, I don't miss any demo anymore, because I've asked my customer before, what are your welding parameters, sir? And then we can come in with the appropriate equipment to make it working properly.
Yeah. And when you were a young man working at Handlex right in the beginning as an engineer, what was some of the first projects you were assigned to do? This is back in the 70s, a company, you're a young man, you come in and they say, okay, look, Michel, we have this project to work on. And as an engineer, you're always trying to solve a problem. That is
Mm-hmm.
always what you're trying to do. What were some of the first problems assigned to you to try to solve for this company?
Well, one of the most interesting was with a company that does not exist anymore, but was quite big. It was marine industry in Sorel. They were manufacturing railroad car, and they had a major issue with smoke in their building, major. And at the time, nobody was talking about source extraction. They were talking about general ventilation.
Hmm.
Yeah. So instead of doing standard general ventilation at the time, that was the I guess the fashion of the day. They were using it. We were using electrostatic precipitator, and we installed them in a crisscross type of operation into the whole building, and producing about 6 air changes per hour in the building. And we really reduced the smoke concentration in the welding area. Except that now I understand that it was not the proper way to do that, because when you do general ventilation in the big shop, you protect the foreman and quality control people and what have you, but you do
But not the
nothing for the
welder.
welder, because the smoke goes on his face before going out. So it's
Hmm.
almost crazy to think about it when you think about it today. It's not the
Hmm.
proper way. First, do your source capture, and then you can increase your general ventilation to help if they do not capture everything. Because most of the time, the problem of the smoke concentration nowadays does not come from the welder itself when they use the smoke extraction gun or an arm or whatever. It comes from the odd thing that when you're gouging or when you're doing
Hmm.
some repair, then you
A
cannot
flux
do source
core or
capture.
something like that.
Our care is the worst that you can think of.
Hmm. Hmm.
It just push the material all over the place, so you cannot
Yeah.
source capture that kind of thing. You can do something. I've been writing many articles in a magazine called Travail et Santé in Quebec. Maybe, I don't know, a couple of dozens of articles, and I
Hmm.
address the gouging and the plasma cuttings and stuff like that.
It's interesting because as a welder, I was a welder for many years before I decided to move into the office world, and I worked in a stainless steel shop, so we did hydraulic cylinders, stainless steel, and we know now it's very toxic. One of the speakers we had at our conference a couple days ago was actually scared me. I talked to my wife in the evening. I said, he was saying that anybody who breathed in stainless steel fumes, even for a short period, has reduced years off their life. And I welded for stainless steel for 20 years
Wow.
and no masks, no nothing, in a shop with many people sometimes, and some of it was stainless steel flux core, which is an incredible
Oh
amount
my
of
God.
fumes, right?
What a bear.
And No, and I was thinking, oh my God, I should go to a doctor. Maybe I should. I started getting scared. But what you said was exactly what this shop did. We got told that our fumes were much too dangerous, so we got a general fume extraction system put in. They came in, they assessed the building, they put in all these electrostatic uh, exchangers, and you know what? They worked great on the first day. By the second day, they already don't work as good. And and every day that goes by it gets worse, and then they say, okay, well, you got to go out there, you got to run them through a cycle, exchange the and you need to go up on a forklift to pull the filters out and change the filters, and this is 60 feet high. And at the end of the day, I think by the end of the third month we weren't even turning them on. Like, it was a $2 million investment that we just
What a
give up
waste.
on. Yeah, it was
Oh,
just a big waste of money. And I find it so interesting that you and your company, and even back then, this is the 80s, we're talking about fume extraction at the source, which I think in industry hasn't really caught on till recently. Or maybe out here in the West we're crazy, but I have seen very little up until maybe 5 years ago with at the source fume extraction.
well, I'm looking for rep in Manitoba and Alberta.
Don't forget about Saskatchewan. We're here too.
I'm looking for representative that will be, I need people that know about welding, but are willing to go and shop and do demo and, dirty their hands a little bit.
Hmm. So, when you're given these first jobs with Handlex, talking about, okay, we need to figure out how to, reduce the fumes in the building. You said you went into this company, they're building railroad cars. It reduced it 6 times better. Okay, great. Did you feel at that point that you had done a good job, and there was, like, what's the next thing you need to improve? Are you still looking at improving the filters, the machines, the layout, the building pressures? I know there's all this science involved. Or are you
Well,
thinking source capture already?
not at that time. Source capture was not the word that was spread. We
Hmm.
barely know about that, and what we knew about it at the time was cutting. I mean, welding tables and stuff like that, which you cannot do that if you manufacture a railroad car.
Hmm. Exactly.
I think no, we were under the impression we're doing the best we could at the time, but
Hmm.
just a few years after, maybe 5 to 6 years after that, we start to think about a little more about source capture, and then it's after that big job that I've been uh, involved with vacuum system and find out that we could do something with smoke extraction that was a lot better for everybody. For the welders, obviously, the first that gets the smoke, but at the same
Hmm.
time, you've reduced the environmental problem because if you don't let it go, well, it won't get in the space, and you won't have
Hmm.
you will have to have some air changes per hour just the same, but not as high as you need to make it looking good for everybody that comes in the shop except the welder.
Hmm.
But if you
Well,
do
and
your
if you
source
can,
capture, you're
that's
doing
right.
both at the same time.
That's right.
So it's a
And
lot more. I think this solution with source capture um, is how to say that is less expensive and more efficient for the owner, and it's a lot more efficient as far as protecting the welder breathing zone, protecting his health,
hmm
definitely. And
now.
nowadays, with the gun that we you see from me,
Hmm.
it's very ergonomic. We had some people that did some tests on our gun as far as ergonomic is concerned, and we were told that they had the same ergonomic as a standard gun, except like I say to people, when you look at the gun, take it the standard gun in your hands, power cable is about what, even smaller than your thumb.
Hmm.
But when you look at my gun, I've got an inch and three-quarter hose coming in there. So it really hits your mind. But if you take it, you use it, you'll see a heck of an improvement in on compared to what was on the market 5 years ago.
Hmm. So
So
when
that's
you
what I've tried to do.
so when you and your team were first trying to think of this source capture at the gun location, was there already competitors doing this that you looked at and thought maybe we could work? something like that, or reverse engineer, or do you, or was this you just going into a whole new market, no idea what's going on?
That was a whole new market, and we had, frankly speaking, our competition was general ventilation, not source
Hmm.
capture.
Yeah.
And at the time, we didn't have a lot of choice for gun. The only one, and it is the first one that started to manufacture the gun at the time, was Binzel. But they had a
Hmm.
lot of drawback on the Binzel. First, it was a fragile gun. Second, the nozzle were adjustable, so the welder can move it. And if you move it too close, it will get the smoke, but it will get the gas also. So you don't have any more welding. It doesn't work like that. With the gun that we designed, and we came before we designed, when we came in contact with Airmig, that was a French manufacturer. We understood that the way they were positioning the vacuum port about 3 inches from the arc gives us the ability to extract the smoke properly without touching the shielding gas at all, and we
Hmm.
improved from that.
And when you
So
had
that's
these first when you had these first thoughts on the drawing table in your office, at Handlex, and you're thinking, okay, we gonna have I'm sure you take a normal MIG gun, and you lay it on the table, and you say, okay, where do we start? We need to have sucking from somewhere, above, below, left, right, how far back, how far forward. How many different variations was there in the beginning before it started to make sense?
Well, for the gun itself, not too many, because we had a little bit of experience. Where at the time, where most of our engineering was to design the proper vacuum source. It was not available. Not
Mm,
around here. Nobody would have that, because the vacuum source has to be able to get the smoke and have any problem with that, don't get out of balance or whatever.
mm-hmm,
And it's high RPM type of thing. So the design of it was very, very touchy, and it did cost us a
mm,
lot of sweat and money on top of that. Because when you run something at high RPM, there's all kinds of issue with the bearing selection,
mm-hmm,
grease or oil selection, construction of the impellers and stuff like that. So you always, in engineering, you always do compromise. You cannot get 100% of what you want all the time. You see, for vacuum producing, you need high RPM. So you have to you have to compromise the type of impeller you're going to use, because the most efficient one won't work because they accumulate smoke, dust, and then a portion of it goes out and it goes completely out of balance. And at
mm-hmm,
10,000 RPM, out of balance doesn't work for long.
mm-hmm.
So there was many uh,
Variations, or yeah.
many things that we had to go through, like the concept, the engineering of the
Mm-hmm,
proper vacuum, then understanding the airflow to make sure, because when you design a system, you start with the convection column that tells you how many CFM you need, but then you
mm-hmm,
work your way out up to the turbine. So all the pressure drop, you have to take care of that to make sure that at the gun, you're going to have the proper vacuum level. And many people mistake that. They don't think enough about the way it should be done, because you, in your ductwork, you're carrying smoke. You're not carrying sand. So you don't have to go fast. So you can make your system, your run 1,000 feet long if you want, but have a very little pressure drop through it. And you have the same vacuum available next to the turbine or far away in the shop. You have to take care of that when you do your design. So the gun was a good part of it, definitely. But
mm-hmm.
not only the gun, the whole
The
system.
vacuum system, yeah.
The
And
whole
then
system has to be designed properly.
every component that connects must be sealed properly too, I assume.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm,
because we're running those network at 100 inches of water.
mm-hmm,
So it's the equivalent of being the vacuum system that we have can raise a column of water 100 inches high. That's the power that we have, close to 5 psi, but it's in negative, it's suction.
mm-hmm.
So if there's just a pinhole in there, it will take a lot of air, and you won't have it where you want. You need it at the gun, nowhere else.
So I guess that leads to the next question: is the durability. You have
Well,
this vacuum, you must contain the shielding that must be in the right place, and everything must be holding, and all these elements. But you're in a welding shop with tons of equipment and sharp steel and hot steel. How do you start working through that aspect of the durability?
Well, we have turbine and network installed that are running since 30 years. Not that bad.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, the owner has to be careful about taking some information on how the system is performing as far as vacuum, amperage on motor, and stuff like that. Just a very regular type of standard maintenance that you have to do. Just a quick check here and there. And nowadays, with almost all of our system, we already have all those information in the control panel of our system. You see, in time, we improved to give some more ability for the operator to find out what's cooking without having to dismantle anything. So this also came in time, with time, I should say.
With the computer systems that are involved now.
There's a lot of those nowadays to monitor at the distance or what. It's unbelievable what you can do with
You're
those.
not just licking your thumb and checking for a hole, no?
No, not a good idea. Not anymore, Max. Not
Those are
anymore.
the old days. You just spit
Yeah.
on it and see if you got a leak. Okay.
And even the welders cannot do what they used to say in the past. Give me a sledgehammer and a cutting torch, and I can do anything for you. Not anymore. It doesn't work like that anymore.
So now we've got the vacuum figured out. We got the gun. We got the durability. Now what about the weldments themselves? The advancement of welding filler materials, the new welding things that come out. So you may have worked with, let's say for an example, GMAW with does not have that much fumes, and you have a very high success rate. And then they come and switch it with stainless steel flux core 045 or 052, big amperage, big voltage, big wire. Is it the same gun, or is it a new gun, or is it different attachments? Different? How does it work?
It's the same gun, Max, because remember what I said at the beginning. The key is the convection column. Whatever it's, I don't know, the concentration is high or low, makes no difference. If you don't control it properly, it will pass by. So if the concentration is heavy because you use flux core and stuff like that, makes no difference for me. It's the quantity of air that I have to extract from the gun to be able to control the convection column. If you had a look at the video I sent you, the video that at one place the guy is welding with my gun, the other way on the other guy in the back, it has nothing, and he's running 332 flux core. So the quantity of smoke in the convection column is not important. It's the convection column itself that we have to control. So go with solid wire or flux core wire, makes no difference for me.
Yeah, and the density of the smoke doesn't matter either.
Well, when you talk about the pulse system, yeah, because when you do pulse, you have more power, you apply more kilowatt, so it comes into my equation to understand how much CFM I need. Of course, if you go with the pulse system, there will be more. The convection column is going to be stronger, so I will have to have the proper vacuum and the proper gun to extract the proper CFM to control it. So it's always, everything is start with the convection column, and when you don't understand that, that's why sometimes you are okay, sometimes you miss, because you haven't understand that now. Hey, it's pushing the parameters, so you got to do something about it.
Now,
That's
what about position? Welding position.
What?
The welding position, because if you're welding in the flat or the 2G, 2F, the convection column is related to gravity, right? So, columns will rise vertically.
Yeah.
So if you go,
the difficult position are if you weld on a wall,
vertical, yeah,
or if you weld vertical up or vertical down, or like I said, even horizontal on the wall.
Horizontal on the
wall wants to go straight up, and you're with your gun and the vacuum port, you're off the wall. So technically speaking, it's a lot more difficult, but we have ways to control that. And also, I think as a welder, you must know when you do those out of position, you cannot push the parameter so high.
Yeah.
Because the gravity applies to the puddle too, isn't it?
That's right. Everything gets dialed back. Yeah.
Yeah. So it helps us a little bit in that matter. But what we do, and most people do in the case like that, is you have to bring your vacuum port a little closer. Maybe move them right now they're about 3 inch. Maybe move them to 2.5 inch or something like that, in order to control your vertical hot air coming up, your convection column coming up. Yes, those out of position are more tricky. So when we do that in a shop, I've been doing that the other day. A shop that was manufacturing truck body, and we have to get with the people out there, see their welding parameter, and readjust our parameter in order to make the welding, the smoke extraction,
Hmm.
with the efficiency you want, because it's more difficult. There's no question about that.
Now, I had something just pop into my head, a thought about, how you said you bought the company when you were 10 years into it. You had been in the company about 10 years and you decided to buy the company. What was that transition like for you going from employee to owner? How did that go with the staff? How did that go with the other senior leaders? Was that a difficult transition for, if someone's listening and they're young and they work for a company and maybe they think someday they could maybe take it over?
Well, it was not that difficult, because in time, you see, from the beginning to 10 years later, I was getting more and more involved in the company and in the, day-to-day work, but also administration of the company. So it was not that difficult. And
Hmm.
I had the will to do that. I wanted to
Hmm.
do that. And I wanted to change the mission of the company, go from, tackling almost any kind of source extraction, going to welding
Hmm.
smoke, because the potential is just unbelievable. You know,
Endless.
eh,
Yeah.
anybody that manufactures something that has steel or stainless steel on it is going to weld.
Hmm. There's no
So
way
the
around it.
potential is fantastic.
Yeah. Do you have a secret love of welding that are you a welder? Do you weld? Do you have a
No,
garage?
I'm not. Unfortunately, this is not a trade that I know the trade, but I'm not good at welding at all. Never took any course or whatever, but did I don't know how many thousands of tests
Hmm.
with customers. So I would say that I'm a lot better at troubleshooting a welding gun and a welding machine than I am at welding. Yeah, wire feeder problem, gas
Yeah.
issue. Oh my goodness. And at the same time, you see, talking about development, we also developed in time all kinds of accessory. For instance, an automatic valve that when you trigger the gun, you got your vacuum. When you stop welding, you stop the vacuum. It has a few nice things when you can do that. It
Hmm.
removes the noise. If you have your gun on the floor, it won't capture everything that is standing on the floor. And at the
Hmm.
same time, you remove about 100, 120 CFM from your exhaust turbine, so you reduce its horsepower automatically. So you have an energy consumption that is reduced.
Hmm.
At 600 three-phase for our motor, it's 1.5 amp per gun when you shut it down. And that wasn't a major issue for the valve, because most people will need compressed air and electrical signal to do that. We need neither of
Hmm.
them. We don't have that. You install it, and what we do to trigger the gun on and off, the signal comes from your shielding gas. So what we do is we take a reading of the pressure when this, how a welding machine works.
Hmm.
On your wire feeder, when you trigger the gun, there's a solenoid valve that open,
Hmm.
feed the inert gas into your gun, and I put a T on that line, and I read the pressure. And with this pressure, I open a valve that get in my system, get into a diaphragm that is using the vacuum of the network to open
Hmm.
up the valve and close the valve. So our installation takes about 15 minutes, no cost,
Yeah.
and it works
That's,
on any machine you can think of. But electrical, so if you want to do the same thing the way people used to do that, you have to bring compressed air to the valve, and you have to bring an
hmm.
electrical signal to the valve also. So sometime only that installation with compressed air and electrical will cost you the price of the valve. So
That's amazing.
our design is very, very good for that. And on top of that, if for instance you would install a system somewhere that can take 10 welders simultaneously, okay, but then in the future you say I might want to increase the number of welder or whatever. Well, if you put the valve on each welder, uh, up to now we've been doing very big job, and we shoot for 50% duty cycle, and we never miss.
Hmm.
So the turbine that can take 10 welders simultaneously, with the valve, it will take 20. No change,
Okay.
nothing, no
Nothing.
piping
Yeah.
change, no nothing, just use the valve.
Yeah.
So that's another improvement we did on our technology in order to make it more efficient and to give possibility for the owner to
To scale it out.
increase the
Yeah.
number of
Yeah.
welder in time without having to spend
Hmm.
enough for another system.
Hmm. Well, and you're saying, 600 volts at 1.5 amps, that's 900 watts of power. That's less than a hair dryer. You know what I mean? Like,
But if you have 20 of them, that
starts to add
start
up.
to make sense.
Yeah. So it's very interesting to me that these systems you're working with, so you're working on the extraction, the guns, the technology, the valves, the piping, the connections, but you are not in any way affiliated or working with a welding company. You're not Lincoln, you're not Miller, you're not ESAB, you're not any of these companies. You're independent.
They're all
But
my competitor.
that's right, they're all your competitors. But in the end, you guys don't produce the welding power sources.
No.
So you still need to fit on those machines,
Oh yeah. But that's not an
right?
issue for me.
Yeah.
It's very easy. Power pin for Miller or for Lincoln, that's standard for us. You tell me what you want. And if you
Hmm.
if you have odd stuff, we also have the what they call the Euro connector, where we can hook up to any kind of machine you can water feeder you can think of, old one, new one, whatever.
Now, how does that
So
work? How do you figure that out?
well, in time, Max, 30 more than 30 years doing tests in different places,
Hmm.
you finish. If you're not stupid, you learn. So
So
for us,
yeah.
I used to say uh, we're not knowledgeable in welding. We cannot give any advice to nobody about welding. But when it comes to ventilation, we know what we're talking about.
Hmm.
And most of our competition fall into the trap of not thinking about the convection column, not thinking about the way vacuum system should be designed so you have the same efficiency from close to the turbine to 1,000 feet from the turbine. So this is the knowledge we have. We don't have the knowledge welding. We don't want to compare ourselves in any way to Miller or Lincoln because no way we can do that, and it's not our
Hmm.
goal at all. But as far as ventilation is concerned, we're good. I think we're good.
Yeah. So
We've
so
been
if
learning a
you're,
lot of things.
let's say for example, you're a company, you have 4 or 5 machines, maybe not even the same machines, a couple different brands, and you want to just reduce your fume extraction, they could just call up Handlex and say, okay, we have these 2 Millers, 2 Lincolns, and an ESAB. You will send the 5 guns with the right pins and the and I assume like the vacuum system that needs to go with them. Or do you guys need to go there first and do an assessment? Like, what's the process like?
Technically speaking, if you're looking for a source extraction system, we will go and do some tests for two things. First, to ascertain that the parameter you're working on or whatever, we understand and we can make it working properly. And second, but most important, the owner and me, I want to make sure the welder wants to use it, because if they don't want to use it, you won't force them through their throat. It won't work like that. So
Hmm.
uh, and the owner will not buy it if his guys don't like it. So the best way to make sure everything works nice and smooth after you install your vacuum system, your source capture system, is make sure it is um, how to say that welcome from the user,
Hmm.
because they are the one that will work with it. And believe me, if they don't like it, you can make sure it won't work well.
Yeah, no, and I've seen that happen, not necessarily with fume extractions, although I have seen it with a couple of fume extraction examples where the company bought something and then no one liked to use it because it was too heavy, it was too uncomfortable,
Yeah,
they didn't like it, so they just left it. But
that's
I've seen a company invest millions of dollars on brand new welding machines with all these fancy toys, all these fancy buttons. Nobody uses it, nobody gets trained on it, nobody cares, and it's like, so what? Why waste the money? You know?
yeah, yeah. That's why I want to do. I don't remember having sold a job without testing.
Hmm.
I don't think so. I think we've always been there and accompany the welders and the shop foreman or the owner to come and do a demo before we sell a job. I think it's a key factor for a successful installation. The
Hmm.
people When the people wants hit, it's like the glass is half full, not half empty.
Yeah.
It's at the same
I-
place, but they want
that's right. If someone asks me if I want ice cream and I say yes and they give me an ice cream, I'm going to eat it.
it.
So, what about the home user? What about somebody in their garage with the MIG machine and they're thinking, I've been seeing these conferences from Max where they tell me the fumes are so dangerous. I've been reading about how bad the fumes are. And then I listened to this podcast with this great man, Mr. Gagnon, who's talking to me about fume extraction. What about me in my garage? Is there something, a product that I can just use as a person from the company?
Yep. Yep. We have a very, very small unit for one welder. As a matter of fact, which of was it Canwell that we gave it to
It was
a
Canwell back in
girl?
October. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. She's got both. She's got the
Hmm.
vacuum source and the gun. And I should follow up with her, see if she's happy and if it works okay, because I haven't talked to her since then.
Yeah, no, and I would love to see because that's something I think that the youth, especially young people getting into the trades now, they're not as dumb as us old guys. We did,
Oh,
like I said, I welded in the trades 20 years with stainless steel and I never wore a mask, and I worry about my health as I get older. Young people, they know that they need to be more careful and they don't want to put up with no bull.
I can tell you one little story when I introduced the Ergo MIG at, I think it was FabTech 2018 in Toronto. I've hired a gentleman, a young guy from Conestoga College, because we did a big job there,
Hmm.
46 welding booths. And I hired a guy to come in here and, make my boots active, doing some welding and so on. And he said, I won't mention the name, not of the guy, not of the company, but he said,
Hmm.
I was hired by the company last week. And I walked into the morning. I start to work, and maybe about an hour and a half, or an hour and a half after I start to work, I couldn't see my neighbor. I see, where the heck were you working? So he gave me the name. I said, oh, I know that company. I've been making demo for them 20 years ago. And for 20 years, they did nothing.
Nothing.
And you know what? The young man said at 12 o'clock, he said to his boss, thank you. I'm not working for you. I'm
Hmm.
out of here.
Yeah.
I'm not going to inhale that all my life. But no,
Yeah.
no, no way. So that's why nowadays I say to my prospective customer, you know what? It's a good, attractive thing for you if you can tell to your welders that you take care about their health, you take care about their
Hmm.
breathing. And I had a company that bought my gun maybe a year ago. It was in Quebec City last weekend. They had this open door to hire people and what have you. And
Hmm.
he wanted to see my gun on the desk. He said, here's what I have for you guys.
Good.
So I think it's a plus for the company that care about the health of their people.
Yeah, and I'm sure down the line too, you never know the long-term effects. You don't want to be a company where your staff is getting sick, missing time.
No,
When I was younger welding, especially when you're welding in the field, everyone's getting bronchitis, everyone is getting sick. This is just normal welding life. And now that I look back on it, that's not normal. That's not
no, no,
normal.
no, no. But it's all you knew at the time.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's
You
what and
cannot blame
that's
nobody.
No, and that's how the job would get done, and everyone around you, they're older than you, they're the mentors, they've been doing it forever, and they say this is the way it is, and so
Yep.
you don't question it. Now going
Yeah, but
forward, like what's what's the future? Because I know that your company, like Handlex as a whole, you're involved in many many school projects and high school and post secondary projects. How did you get into that world of helping with the fume extraction with training centers?
it started in 2017. I was in Quebec City for skill competition, and
Mm-hmm.
then somebody walked in there with a table and had advertising about the foundation,
Mm,
and I didn't know him, so we started to talk, and then he asked me. He said, "The system that you have in here," he said, "how much would you sell it for?" Well, I think we had 15 guns out there. I said, install and everything. I said, maybe 35, 40,000. He looked at me and he said, I thought I was robbed in the past. Now I know I was. And we started to do, and it was Andrew.
Andrew Bartlett, yeah.
Yep. we started to do job. I went with him in Nova Scotia. We visited about, I don't know, dozens of school and so on, and that's the way it started.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go back and call any of the school we did, they all work well, still working
Yeah.
well, and I guaranteed my arm 5 years parts and labor
Mm-hmm.
because they're flexible arm without flexible.
Mm-hmm.
Cast aluminum and aluminum tubing, aluminum nozzle. At one time, for instance, I remember talking to a teacher, maybe our nozzle, in order to reduce price or whatever, make them out of plastic or so on. And the teacher said, don't you ever do that because the student will burn it.
They'll wreck it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we keep doing that with aluminum. It's a lot harder to burn.
Yeah.
So
And how did and you continue to reach out to schools even with, after that program, kind of
oh yeah, we keep
wrapped
we
up.
yeah, once in a while I have talked with Joshua nowadays,
Mm-hmm. Josh
and
Fortin.
in
Yeah.
New Brunswick. Well, the school board is so happy about the system that they call me each time one comes out, all
Good.
the time. So because they did their own test at what was it, Fredericton High School, I think there was 12 booths out there, and they did their own tests as far as concentration in the student breathing zone,
Mm-hmm.
into the general area, and what have you. And we were way below all the threshold limits, so they're
Good.
happy with it. Works okay. That's it. I did also near Ottawa. We did replace some competition stuff with the local 765, I think, iron worker.
Iron workers. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we did that with them too. So we, we,
Well,
we I don't know how many dozens and dozens and dozens of them we did. But again, we take care about the concentration, not the concentration, but the bottle and
mm-hmm.
our nozzle on the arm. There's some magic number to be efficient. Right at the opening of
Mm-hmm.
the arm, you have to have at least 1,000 feet per minute. Otherwise, smoke goes by.
Wow. So if you were a school listening, a teacher perhaps somewhere in Canada listening to this program, and they were like, how do we get involved with getting some new or better, capture for the fumes? And, who do they reach out to? How do they contact? How does it work? Just go
But
to the website?
yep, the best way would be to go to WhatsApp or call me at
Yeah.
Handlex. I'll be glad to help them. In some provinces, I have a rep. In other provinces, I don't. So I'll take care of it personally.
Hmm.
In Manitoba, I don't have anybody, but we've been working with, I don't know if you know them, MITT,
Yeah, the
Manitoba.
Manitoba Institute. Yeah.
Yeah, well, lately we did the 43 boot system on a new installation, and then the old one, they just throw everything out, and they're putting another set of 43 or 46 of our arms into their old facility that they're revamping. It's under
Hmm.
production right now.
Yeah, that's a beautiful facility. It's huge.
Yeah, I've never been there. I've been
No?
working with Abe Simpson, the
Yeah.
consultant that we've been doing job with them for years and years.
Do you ever come out to the West? Do you ever visit the
Yeah, yeah,
prairies?
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah, definitely. I've
What's your
been in
favorite place to
Winnipeg a
go in
couple
the
of
West?
times. I was trying to convince the guy from CNH to buy source capture. Not no success yet, but I'm keep trying.
Well, in Saskatchewan, we have huge manufacturing companies, huge. And have you been able to get into any of them, like Brandt or J&E or Degelman?
No,
Or
no.
I mean,
I'd
these
like
companies
to.
hire thousands of welders.
Boy, I'd like to. I need a rep. So if you know anybody, Max,
Well, people will be listening. You better be careful. They'll be calling you.
well, I'll be pleased to go and see if they want to do the kind of work that has to be done, because obviously we expect some of the thing that has to be done a certain way to
Hmm.
make the a successful partnership between me and any rep. But yeah, I'll be very 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 pleased.
So where do you see the future for Handlex now? Do you see it just running with the source capture, still working with the building captures? You guys have full systems.
Uh-huh.
What's the future?
Well, right now, what we expect to do is something quite interesting with the U.S. market. We are acquainted with a manufacturer rep that is even bigger than us, much bigger than us. But most important thing, he understood the capability of the technology, and he told me lately, Michel, our future goes through your technology because source
Mhm.
capture is the way to go. So we expect to have pretty interesting growth from our southern partner in the coming years.
Now, how big is your company now, like
Well,
in Quebec?
Max, I have to tell you that when the pandemic happened, our booking went down to zero. I had to fire almost everybody.
Oh,
We
that
were
sucks.
20 at a time. Now we're
Mm-hmm.
9. We're coming up, but very, very slowly. It doesn't
Yeah.
go up fast. So, when you're in business, you have to match
Mm-hmm.
the
Demand.
incoming and the outgoing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we're up to, from 20, we're up to 9 now.
And growing now, especially if
Oh,
the what's
definitely.
the
Every year.
American deal? Yeah.
Yeah, every year. So it's quite interesting, and the future is very bright in front of us.
Good. Well, and we're here to help carry your message because we know the great work you've done with the schools and everything, and the association loves promoting all the great work you guys do.
Thank you very much. I appreciate.
So then, what's Michel's future then? Are you eyeing retirement in your airplane that you have beside your house? Are you
Well,
thinking about what your next project will be?
well, I guess my next big project will be to maybe pass the company to somebody else in the future because
Hmm.
I'm much older than you, so I definitely I'm thinking about it, but
Yeah.
no rush at all. I love what I do.
Hmm.
There's nothing more interesting for me than coming into a facility, doing a demo, and looking at people eyes when they start to work with the gun. They couldn't believe it.
I haven't
That's a
even had a
reward.
chance to play with one yet. I haven't even had a chance. I will make a point of it. Maybe around September, maybe I will go down and see you. I think that will be around a good time for me.
That will be no problem at all. It'll be a pleasure to see you.
Perfect. So, as we get close to the end of the interview, as you look back on your life as an engineer coming out of school, getting into this industry, and then, being so closely tied to the steel trades, what kind of advice would you give perhaps a young engineer coming out of school? What kind of advice would you give an engineer pursuing a trade that might go down the steel industry ways?
I would say follow your imagination. I remember that just before I acquired Handlex, I was dreaming about having a company that manufactures stuff, good quality, and make people happy about using your equipment. So if your dream is doing that kind of stuff, don't stop. Go ahead, push
Hmm.
on it.
Yeah.
And there's many ways to do that. You can start from scratch, and there's a lot of opportunity nowadays since uh, all our population across Canada are getting older. So
Hmm.
there's a lot of small company that are looking for, how you say
Selling.
that in English,
Hmm.
relève.
I'm not
Uh,
sure.
Relève means somebody that will take over.
Or like succession.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that will are looking for that nowadays.
Hmm.
Definitely, I'm not alone with my age.
And there's a huge skills gap, and we need workers, and we need people to come run these companies and
Yep,
bring their new vision and new ideas for the future.
absolutely. That's one of the most interesting reward in my life is being able to think about something, design something, make it working, and then having the operator or owner being happy with the
Hmm.
technology. That's
Awesome.
a big reward when you know that you're doing something good and it is appreciated by people. There's no money for that. I used to call that it's a reward for your soul.
Wow, I like that. We need more of
No,
those every
no,
day.
I used the wrong word. It's food for your soul.
Food for your soul. Good. Well, food is a reward as well. So
Yeah, yeah. But there's no money for that, Max. You can't buy that.
no, you can't.
So
And you never know where life will take you. So
you never. I agree with you. You never know.
yeah.
Sometimes bad, but sometimes very nice, very interesting.
Well, you know, I had somebody tell me once that life never goes backwards. Maybe
No,
something will seem bad, but it's not bad. It's too slow. You expected more. Okay, that's fine, but it doesn't go backwards. So you just keep going.
that's true.
Yeah,
It's going ahead all the time.
yeah.
And you definitely you learn from your mistake also, huh?
Hmm. All right, well, Michelle, this has been a fantastic interview. We're almost an hour already, so just
Yeah,
like that, it snaps by. It's
unbelievable.
unbelievable. Are you going to be at Canweld? Are you coming over to
Oh yeah.
Toronto for Canweld?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I'll be there. Well, I'm
Okay, well, I'll be
sponsored.
there.
I'm
Well, that's
sponsored.
right. I wasn't sure if you were coming though, so
Oh yeah, I'll be there with my guns and what have you.
good,
Definitely.
good. We'll be there too to have some time and eat. Maybe have a couple beers and have a good
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah, yeah. A good idea. Very good.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much. And for all the people listening, please check out the Handlex website. They're a very interesting product. Like they say, they made up with all the equipment that's out there, all the welding machines. They have solutions for both shops, garages, single use, group use, manifold use. And it's like, I mean, you just got a team of people that are willing to work with you, which I've been very impressed with. So
Thank you very much.
thank you,
And
Michelle. And
we'll see each other again in a very near future.
absolutely. And you take care.
Very good. Thank you.
And for all the people listening, please make sure you keep downloading and sharing the podcast. And we'll see you at Canweld in Toronto. Then we'll see you at FabTech Atlanta in November. We're going to try to be everywhere. We're going to be in front of you. We're also going to be at Marytech in Niagara Falls here in about a week or so, and then at Skills Canada in Vancouver. So we're a busy schedule coming up, and we're very excited to meet all our fans and all the people that support the podcast. So everybody take care, and we'll see you next week.
We hope you enjoyed the show.